Sleep is an essential part of life. It allows the body to restore and regenerate itself. But for some people, good quality sleep is a real struggle. And over time, it's been shown that insufficient sleep has negative effects on our health. So just how does sleep deprivation impact our cognitive function? And is it possible to reverse the damage done? For this discussion, I'm joined by Dr. Farial Luha, all the way from Canada via Zoom, to chat to us more about this topic. Welcome, Farial. Great to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much, Michael. Likewise, it's lovely to see you.
Great. Now, tell us about sleep deprivation. What exactly is the definition of sleep deprivation?
Sleep deprivation, which actually is becoming quite an epidemic, if I can put it that way, is just prolonging wakefulness and not getting good quality sleep. So there is a difference between quality and quantity. And so it's a combination of both. It's where we are reducing the amount of time that we are sleeping, which is not restorative, and or we are sleeping, but it's a very disturbed, disrupted sleep. And when that happens over time, it's considered chronic sleep deprivation.
Okay. Now, obviously, sleep is a regenerative process, and as you mentioned, restorative. What is the impact on the brain when we sleep? And by default, then, if we don't have enough sleep, what is the negative impact on the brain?
You know, the thing with sleep is that I think in our society, unfortunately, in this modern day society, we tend to undervalue or underappreciate the importance of sleep. And because sleep is so important for the way the body repairs and heals and rejuvenates itself, the brain in particular is very, very susceptible to any issues with sleep disruption. And so the effects and the negative effects, a lot of people have this impression that there's not much going on during sleep, but sleep is not an impartial activity. It's not neutral. There's quite a bit going on. And this is the time during which actually there's a lot of cleaning and repair processes happening, in particular with the neurons, the neuronal circuitry of the brain. There's a flushing out of toxins. Yeah. We have a system that you may be familiar with and the viewers would be familiar with called the lymphatic system, which helps to flush out toxins from the body. Well, we have something similar just for the brain, and it's called the glymphatic system to help flush toxins out of the brain.
So how many hours of sleep would then be ideal for this cleaning process and all the other processes to work properly?
Well, of course, there are going to be some inter-individual differences, right? So not everybody requires the same amount of sleep, but more and more research is showing that for the best quality of sleep and to really be able to be functional the next day, we want about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. However, of course, we will have individuals who can function very well on 6 hours. So, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but 6 hours or less, you're going to start to see a lot of consequences, negative consequences related to sleep deprivation. So I would say between 7 to 9 hours.
Okay. If we're not getting good quality sleep, obviously we mentioned cognitive functions. You mentioned the cleaning of the brain system. What are the most detrimental elements of a lack of sleep?
So Michael, I'm going to talk about what happens if it's a chronic sleep deprivation, right? So if you're having a night here and there of sleep deprivation, if you think about how you feel the next day, all of us probably have similar experiences where you're feeling really tired and fatigued and maybe some brain fog, mood disturbances. But if that's happening once in a while, you can almost recover from that with a good night's sleep the next day. However, if it's chronic, this becomes an issue because sleep, it's one of life's greatest pleasures, but it's also one of life's biggest frustrations because we're spending about 36% of our lives sleeping. So it's so important to appreciate how, restorative and healing sleep can be for the brain and the body. So for example, with hormones, all kinds of hormones are going to start to become disrupted if this is a chronic issue. If you think of something like insulin, for example, having ongoing nights of sleep deprivation will create a situation where an individual becomes insulin resistant. And insulin resistance has many different manifestations. We know insulin resistance mostly because we think of it as the path towards diabetes, which is true.
Yeah.
But there are many other consequences, cardiovascular health issues, something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, and even Alzheimer's, things that are related to cognitive function, which are due to having insulin resistance. So that's one. If we're not sleeping well, what happens with our circadian rhythm is our stress hormone, which should be highest during the day, and I'm sure you know very well which stress hormone I'm talking about, right? So cortisol, you should have high levels of cortisol, full tank in the morning, ideally, and then those levels will slowly taper off as the day goes on to help you deal with the stresses of the day. It is important that that cortisol is tapering down to its lowest level, and usually that's between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
Okay.
If your cortisol levels stay high, we are not able to release other hormones that are really important. So, for example, for all the men out there, testosterone. You require about 3 hours of good quality sleep, particularly in the deepest stage of sleep, which is REM sleep, to be able to boost testosterone production, which happens at night. Okay, growth hormone is another one, very, very important. It's the youth hormone.
Yes,
so of course, if you're not producing growth hormone, you're aging faster,
Okay.
right? And then with cortisol being high, melatonin is going to be affected. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I also wanted to just touch on the thyroid gland, because during sleep, when cortisol levels are low, then your thyroid is able to also do its function well. If cortisol levels are erratic or high, the conversion between the inactive thyroid hormone T4 to T3 is disrupted, and so we will end up with low thyroid function. So those are just a few examples from the hormonal point of view.
Right.
But of course, the brain, all kinds of things going on with like I said, the neuronal circuitry, in particular related to the prefrontal cortex. So this is where you have higher functions, executive functions like reasoning, making judgments and making important decisions,
Right.
being able to have that quick reactive time for decisions, even creativity, things like language or being able to calculate. All of your response time is going to be affected, and consolidation, which means being able to actually get those memories properly cemented into your brain circuitry, is also disrupted with sleep deprivation. We know now that about 16 hours of sleep deprivation is certainly going to impact your mental and emotional health. But at 19 and 20 hours of sleep deprivation, the impact is such that it is likened to a person who is drunk being behind the wheel.
Oh my goodness.
At 20 hours,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So again, the consistency in terms of scheduling, I would say, would be the first thing. It is something that needs to be planned and prepared for, and knowing that you're going to start winding down at a certain time to get to bed, and keeping that consistent, regular schedule. And then the environment, very important, right? As I mentioned before, melatonin responds again to the light dark cycle, and as the sun sets and it starts to get dark, then we start to have the production of melatonin in the brain, which is released by the pineal gland. So if you're sleeping in a room where there's light coming in, whether it's from the outside, whether you need to have a little bit of light in the room, or the worst of all is your devices, TVs, things like this, then that melatonin production is going to be completely blunted. And then I would say, the temperature of the room is really important. So we should be sleeping in a slightly cool room, because that's going to help the body to get into a nice stage, stage 1, stage 2, and so on of sleep. So temperature is important, darkness. And so if people are having difficulties falling asleep, things like taking an Epsom salt bath, with some essential oils like lavender and frankincense can be very calming. There are foods, by the way, that are very high. They help to produce melatonin. So melatonin-rich foods, in particular cherries. Cherries are great at producing melatonin, oats, bananas, mangoes, things like that. And then we can do other things where we can get into breathing, deep breathing, sort of mindfulness, meditation types of, just calming the mind. But I think a mistake that some people are making is that they're eating and drinking just before they're about to go to sleep. And that is not a good idea. So I do think it's a good idea to have something that's got some protein and a bit of complex carbohydrate about 2 hours before bedtime, because you don't want your blood sugar levels fluctuating through sleep, because that's going to wake you up. And then there are other things one can do. If it's becoming a chronic sleep deprivation issue, acupuncture is really great for stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. One may need to resort to calming teas like chamomile, passion flower, taking these in a pill form. And then there are things like L-theanine, which is the active ingredient in green tea, which is also very calming, magnesium. So those are some ideas.
Well, I think there's so much certainly to talk about and so many more solutions that we could explore. And I think we'll definitely have to have you on for a bit more of a chat around sleep. So Farial, thank you so much for taking some time to chat to us. I know it's very early on that side. It's great to have you with us as always.
Well, I did get some beauty sleep, thank you. And I hope you guys all have great sleep tonight. But it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much, Michael.
Wonderful. Thank you.